Welcome to another episode of the RockFit Files. I'm Rocky Snyder, and we are pursuing this season a whole bunch of world experts in the realm of health and fitness, and they have all been contributing authors to the book, The Successful Body. Now, before we even bring on the guest, if you want a copy of The Successful Body, all you have to do is follow us on Instagram. That's Rocky_Snyder. And this week, I'll pick some new follower on Instagram, and they will receive a complimentary copy of The Successful Body. And if you want to get your own purchase copy, of course, you can go to Amazon or any major bookseller. And now, Kyle Coletti is my guest this week, and Kyle is with Focusmaster Fitness, basically a system of movement. I don't like using the word exercise, so something that gets you jazzed up and doesn't even make you feel like you're exercising. And if you haven't heard of Focusmaster Fitness, well, here you go. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rocky. Appreciate it. Glad I'm here.
Yeah, now tell me, let's just talk about Focusmaster Fitness. How did that come about? And I know that you've gone up in the ranks in TV and notoriety there. So I just want to go through that whole path. How did Focusmaster Fitness come about? And first of all, what is it?
Yeah, no, great. So what is Focusmaster? Focusmaster now is a little something different than it was before. Focusmaster started out as a piece of equipment. So my partners created this unique piece of equipment back in 1996. They were martial artists. They were doing Jeet Kune Do, and they wanted a piece of equipment that they could use without having the need to have a partner. So they created this piece of equipment that would simulate a boxing coach or a coach holding targets and mitts at different heights and different angles to simulate that other person and still getting that best experience. And so they originally created for themselves, and then they showed it to their Sifu at the time and was like, oh, this is very cool. And there was some legitimacy behind it. And then, one thing led to another, and they started creating more prototypes and more prototypes. And so they sold to the martial arts market for many years, and we still do today. But that's where it kind of started. And if we take it now where we are today, 20 plus years later, it's more of a general fitness experience. It's more of this like lifestyle mentality that we like to have. Yes, we still have the piece of equipment, and we are, we're pretty married to it because it's a uniqueness in the way that we do our training in boxing, kickboxing, fitness, but it's evolved into this whole larger community and a much wider span than originally was just being in the martial arts market.
How so? How do you expand into a community kind of centric product?
So it was a slow evolution. My partners created this, as I said, as a passion for themselves and kind of unique tool for themselves. And for many years, they would, travel industry trade shows and sell the equipment. And at that time, it was selling to martial arts dojos, right? And some martial arts home users who knew how to use it, who loved the accessories, very similar to them. And, because this was never their main focus as a business. This was a hobby. It started as a hobby and started gaining legitimacy over the years. There's many times where it just kind of existed to some degree because they were entrepreneurs in other areas, and that consumed their time. And meanwhile, they're 20 years older than I am. So one of the partners is my father. So when I was in my teens, I had one of these pieces of equipment in my basement, and that's where I started using it and playing around with it. So it's always been part of my life as well, ironically. And then I ended up getting involved with it back in 2010-ish, where it was kind of just, again, existing at that point. We'd created a relationship with a distributor, and they were handling sales, and there wasn't a ton of effort put into it. And so my goal was, hey guys, I was working in New York City in finance at the time, and I pitched them and I said, listen, I think there's an amazing opportunity here. I've been a part of all these different boxing, kickboxing gyms in New York City, and I just consumed so much. I said, I think we could really use this unique tool and create a whole new program around it, right? Get more people involved. Let's transition from martial arts focus to general fitness. Because I think of myself as just a general fitness user. And so that's where it started creating a workout around the equipment. And now people they didn't need to know how to use it or what boxing, kickboxing strikes were, or even martial arts strikes. Now, if they were led through a class, they learned it and experienced it, and it just kind of snowballed.
Oh, that's fabulous. And of course, I would be remiss in not mentioning the fact that you were on a show that was looking for the latest and greatest in regards to health and fitness. So tell me a little bit about how that came about.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience. It was this TV show was called Sweat Inc. and it was on Spike TV at the time, and it was hosted by Jillian Michaels, who's a fitness celebrity, and then it was Randy Hetrick, who's the creator of TRX, and then Obi Obadike, who's another fitness, celebrity trainer who's been on a lot of, national television shows. So they were the host, and they cast 27 fitness entrepreneurs that either had a piece of equipment or a program, and they were looking for America's next fitness phenomenon. And so I happened to be out at ursa that year with one of my business partners, and there was like a talent scout, going around the booth, and she overheard me give kind of like a pitch to, because the shows you're pitching to everybody, you're talking a mile a minute of what's going on, why your product's great, and all that stuff. And she's like, "You'd be really good for this show. I'm casting for this TV show." At the time, I didn't think much of it, because there's a lot of things that go on at trade shows that you're
Yeah.
not sure of the legitimacy of and
Empty
everything.
promises. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I said, let's roll with it. Absolutely. What do we got to do? So we set up some Skype interviews, and one thing led to another, and they selected us as one of the contestants. And so we flew out to California, and I was out there for 7 weeks. It was a great experience.
Wow. And so how many competitors were on the show with you?
There was 27. So they kept a lot of us. They kept a lot of it in the dark. We didn't know what to expect. When I left, funny story, I was supposed to go on vacation with my wife and my son, who was just about 1 at the time. And you get a call, and they're like, they fly you out for a physical to make sure that you're healthy enough to go through the show. And they're like, "All right, well, you're not picked yet, but you're on the list." And I'm like, "Okay, well," then I'm like, "I'm going away next week." They're like, "Yeah, no, don't worry about that." They call me like a Wednesday. I'm supposed to leave on vacation on like Friday morning or something. Like, "All right, you got to fly out tomorrow night for you. You made the show." I'm like, "What?" So I actually skipped that vacation,
Ah,
uh, of course, to jump on this opportunity. But we had no idea how long we were going to be out there, what the format was going to be. But, a small business, young entrepreneur, you kind of jump at any opportunity for some exposure. And then you say, I'll figure it out as I go.
unreal. Okay. And it obviously, we'll just fast forward. You went through the seasons and you were selected the winner.
Yes, yes. It was very cool. It was it was unique in the way that it was shot. They kind of segmented you off with other like competitors. So I want to say I was in the boxing, kickboxing, martial law, MMA type of program. So my program would compete, or my business model would compete to these other two individuals, and then one would make it on to the end. And so there was 9 groups, and then finally the top 9 went to the finale. And then it, from what they showed on TV to what actually happened, I mean, it's a sliver of what went on. I was out there for 7 weeks. They were filming all the time. I had a handheld cam that I had to shoot. I was doing all these other interviews. I trained people for 4 weeks. It was just so much that they capture. And it's amazing how much they can actually trim it down to just capture certain things.
Wow.
But they analyze your business model. They try to crack you, and see how much they can influence your decision. And I tried to stay super focused and just, you know, tell myself I'm out here to represent myself, my family, my partners, my business in the best way, and stay on the straight and narrow. And I knew what we had, and I knew that our business model was very sound, because we had experienced a lot of scenarios where they're trying to pull you down. Well, what about this and what about that? Why wouldn't you do that? And if I wasn't at that point in the business, I wouldn't be able to answer those questions with so much conviction and belief, right? Because if I was 2 years earlier, 3 years earlier, I wouldn't know. Those would be unknowns. But having overcome those obstacles, I knew and felt very confident of what we had and the package that we had, and how it made sense. So, at that point, I remember saying, I don't know. I didn't ever felt like they like I was a front runner by any means, right? I mean, I'm going against some other really great products, and you know, you're thinking on a global scale. One of the guys was, you know, a soccer. It was a fitness soccer based, you know, tool which has huge population, worldwide recognition. Another one was kind of a weighted yoga. It could be used in that. It's like another huge potential, you know, group. But I said, whether I win or not, I'm going to represent what we do to the best of its ability. And that was kind of my focus the whole time.
Fantastic. You walk away with 100 grand and major endorsements, and I imagine that just kind of catapulted you along your business path.
Absolutely. It was, probably the biggest thing was just a little validation, right? Because here we are, this small business with crazy dreams and hopes and you know, visions of what we could do for people with this product and this workout and this mentality. Because we've seen it so much on the micro level in our studio, and you know, we sell our equipment to gyms around the world and what they can do to their members. And so, you know, kind of getting on that stage and they're trying to, you know, crack you a little bit, and feeling confident in what we had, it definitely, you know, gave us like a little feather in our cap for sure. And no matter what, you know, winning the 100,000 was great. We got a relationship with Retro Fitness at the time, which was, you know, awesome and fantastic. And the exposure was tremendous. I think we, you know, we all wish the show performed a little better than it did, you know, in the way that just following wise. But from our standpoint, obviously, it was a life-changing experience, and it was a ton of fun, and got to meet a lot of cool people, and you know, something that I'll never forget for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Like, what do you do after the Olympics? I guess that's the question right there, huh? Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
of course, you go and you contribute into the successful body. So, what was it that you wrote about in regard to your chapter? You give us a synopsis of what it is that you contributed to.
Yeah, so the big thing that we've created through Focus Master is, you know, we're a boxing kickboxing studio. We're not training fighters. You know, that's not what it is. You know, we're training a philosophy of quick and effective workouts. And, you know, when I designed the workout first, again, I'm 20 years younger than some of my partners. I was 27 years younger than my father, was another partner of ours. You know, when I was creating this program, I wanted, you know, I wanted to make everybody feel like Rocky, right? You're not getting in the ring getting hit, but you want to feel like Rocky, that underdog mentality, this quick and effective workout that, you know, puts certain striking combos together that whether you're a veteran or brand new, then it doesn't matter. And you would be completely fine with getting in here and feeling like that Rocky individual, you know? And so it kind of, when I ran them through it, I thought it was for me, the workout. And they're like, oh, God, this workout's for me. This workout's for my generation. So that was the first kind of like eye opening of like, you know, there's a much bigger market out there than just what I was trying to plug in for my own kind of workout. And so this mentality, this fight for it mentality, right, is kind of what we've created, that everybody has a little fight inside of them, right? And we all fight for something. It doesn't matter if it's to lose 100 pounds or if it's to lose to get down to 10% body fat. Like, we all have something to fight for. And it doesn't matter your fitness level, your age, or whatever. It transcends across everybody. Everybody faces obstacles. So we started to create this workout in this, you know, this kind of fight for it mentality. And that's kind of evolved to the chapter that I wrote, was focusing on that, you know, stories of that, and almost like the philosophy behind how we think at Focus Master, of consistency. And, you know, it's not always like you're jazzed up to work out, but it's the mundane sometimes. It's the, you know, nose to the grindstone. You just get up and do it because you know it's going to be better when you walk out that door, right? You know that what you did for your body is going to be makes it all worthwhile. But, you know, hitting the alarm clock and getting up and getting in there isn't the best feeling, but always coming back and having, you know, just doing that one more rep, you know, getting that fight for it mentality.
And this is all boxing maneuvers that you're talking about.
Yeah, so our workout, the uniqueness of our workout, I think, is that we really just use boxing as a lot of the cardiovascular training, where other people would get on a treadmill or a rower or do whatever. Um, our 30-minute workout, You know, they all have a warm up, they all have a circuit training component, they all have a cool down. So we try to make it balanced, right? It's not, uh, we use some weights occasionally, but it's about 50% striking and then 50% either body weight exercises. And then some classes have some dumbbells. So it's not in the traditional sense of like a boxing style class where you're striking 90% of the time. You know, it's short intervals and it's really like a 50-50 share between the striking and then the strength.
Gotcha. Okay, now what is your typical client demographic like?
In our studio, this is the uniqueness because we kind of have so much a wide range of customers. You know, we sell our piece of equipment to home users around the world, you know, mostly, you know, domestically. And those individuals could be, you know, individuals have boxing background, martial arts background, kickboxing, any sort of striking art. And whether they're doing for fitness or they're doing it just because they love martial arts and they want to continue their training when they're not at their dojo or at their martial arts school, you know, that's one user. And that user is different than typically the individual who walks in our studio. Like I mentioned, you know, we're not training fighters here and we are teaching boxing and kickboxing skills, but most of the people, this is like the alternative to things they've struggled with, you know, their whole life, you know, staying in shape or staying motivated or staying consistent. And what we find is that, you know, people who always struggle with consistency, you know, will be some of our longest members, 7 years, 8 years. They say, I can't believe, yeah, I walked in here day one. I've never been with a program this long. So a lot of times what we see in the studio is, you know, 35 to 55-year-old individuals that are short on time, and we just become their fitness solution. They walk in, they don't have to think, there's no planning. There's a fun aspect, right? It's fun some days, it's, you know, it's always challenging, but all you have to do is show up and we take care of the rest. And you do learn some cool skills of boxing and kickboxing and feel like that Rocky.
Yeah, and now it's interesting. I just happened to recently finish a course in brain health, and parts of that, of course, talking about the aging brain and Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, and whatnot, and how, of course, movement can be a key at helping to restore or maintain certain levels like dopamine and cortisol levels and so on. And they bring about fast action or interval training, multi-directional movement, which is of course what boxing is. It's so much so that like the Parkinson's Society or community have boxing programs
Yes. Yep.
for people, and the seniors that are have struggle with executive function or yeah, cognitive abilities, they've found that this also helps. So I this is a long-winded question, I guess. How many of your clients do you see that are the baby boomers, that are the seniors turning toward the elderly population?
We definitely had that we definitely had that population, and we don't know, you know, is that because my partners, when we created this concept in my one business partner's carriage house, we converted as, you know, a garage into our initial studio where we was kind of, we were testing everything. You know, I don't know if it started from that just because that's their network and our network of individuals, or if there's something bigger than that, right? I mean, here we are almost 10 years out from that first original studio, and we deal with a lot of people that, you know, could be qualified as baby boomers as well. So I'm not really sure what it is, but I think where we really separate ourselves is really in that alternative method, right? I mean, there's people that struggle for years with their health and fitness, and they don't want things that are boring and they don't want things that are long and draining, right? So we try to be that solution for those individuals that don't want to jump on the treadmill. And so, you know, we used to use the term mind suspension. Like when you're in there, your mind is suspended and focused on every little second. Is that the jab, the cross? Okay, I'm going down quick. 3, 2, 1. I'm into body squats. 3, 2, 1. I'm back up jumping jacks. 3, 2, 1. I'm back at the machine. Right. So it's almost like a great therapy, right? There's something cathartic about striking something and punching and kicking. And there's something that just innately feels good when you're done with that. Take some frustration out. But the way that the class is kind of always moving and quick and fast paced, and completely scalable. You know, your fast pace could be different than my fast pace or Sarah's fast pace or Jennifer's fast pace. So it's very scalable in nature, but there's something about the mind suspension that you can't really put your finger on, that people walk out and, we said you feel unstoppable because you almost got this release. Like you can't get in there and be in the workout and think, oh, I got to do laundry and then I got to go pick the kids up. And this is your separation from reality for 30 minutes.
Now, I see in the background there on the shelf, you've got Target mitts and Target pads and so on. It looks as if that's there's a few other things that almost like insert into different places, but I imagine you use those quite continuously throughout your day.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm actually in one of the back storage rooms here as we have trainings going out in the other room. So yeah, you're seeing some of our targets. The G1000 is our Focusmaster machine, and it can either be wall mounted or freestanding. If it's wall mounted, it takes up less than 1 square foot of floor space, and if it's freestanding, it takes up 3 foot by 3 foot. So it's about the half the size of a treadmill. And what that is it's this mainframe unit with 20 different studs on there. And then we put these targets or attachments that lock into the mainframe. And that's what simulates as if a boxing coach was holding mitts at different heights and different angles. So anything really that a boxing coach could hold, so could the Focusmaster. And that's the ideal scenario, right? If you've talked to anybody who's ever taken a boxing class, what's the best part? It's like the 30 seconds or 60 seconds that the coach was holding the mitts for you. Well, our workout is every time you strike, it's like somebody's holding mitts for you. And that's kind of the idea. So it's endless the amount of combinations and setups and configurations our machines can have. And we do have a basic package that comes with 3 of our targets. And then we have another line of accessories that just kind of amplify the versatility of, whether it be a torso pad or a clapper target. And, depending on the segment or the individual, the end user, some use more than others, like a clapper target. You're going to get a lot of Taekwondo individuals, but it's also great to punch through with a big haymaker, or left hook or right hook. So that it depends on, who's using that and what targets they like to use.
And I imagine, my height varies from somebody else's. So those mitts are adjustable based on a person's height, or how do you work with that?
Yep. So obviously, if it's at your home, it's completely customizable to what you want, how you want to set that up. But in the studio, we basically, this was one of the questions on the show, or actually, we set it up where we could have somebody who's 5 feet tall, and somebody who's 6'4", and it's really not going to be that much of a difference into what it is. And we always say, my wife's 5 feet tall, and we easily have people that are, 6'3", 4" in the same class, and they're hitting the same targets at the same height, because you can hit a little lower on the target, you hit a little higher on the target, you can get a little wider in your stance. And because we're not training fighters, I mean, we want to get that movement. If I have to throw an uppercut and it's higher than what it normally be, will it be the most powerful at the peak of power for my impact? Not necessarily, but it's about movement at the end of the day. And as long as I'm hitting that technique properly and getting the proper pivot, it doesn't matter if it's, 2 inches lower or 2 inches higher at the end of the day.
And how is it? I'm curious. We've got these things called blaze pods, and they're little pods that light up, and
Mhm.
you use a little app if you're not familiar with it. But it's great for eye, hand, eye, body, foot coordination, whatever it is, depending upon how you use it, which is very similar to what you're describing here. But how do you cue your clients or the home people as to how they're going to hit the sequences that you're throwing out?
So there's a little bit of a learning curve, but not that much, right? Because the way, and we've had to kind of transition slightly during COVID, right? Because in our old style format in our studios, and when we created programming for clubs around the world, each machine would be set up in a different configuration. So each machine would look slightly different. So if I went to machine 1, I might work, 3 body shots and then a left shovel hook. And then I would do some exercises and I would transition to station number 2. And that might be jab, cross, left hook. And I'm just looking at 2 targets and then the same thing. So I would get all these different experiences moving down the line. Now, what we've had to do for COVID in our studio is create every Focusmaster in the same target configuration. So there was no rotating around the room. So we had to get a little more creative, but I could set up a configuration of targets and we could work 20 different striking combinations on that same configuration, right? Jab, cross, left hook, cross, could be jab, jab, cross, left hook, could be cross, left hook, cross, left hook. So there's no changing of the targets from the members' experience. They're going to be learning all these combos. And as long as we teach them, a lot of in boxing that you're using numbers, ones and twos, threes, fours. We use the actual word. So as long as you're going to learn what a jab is, what a cross is, what a left shovel, right hook, left hook, and so on. And once you learn that terminology, we can put any combo in there and you're going to learn it. And the funny thing is that, we get people of all different athleticisms from like college athletes that are, D1 collegiate athletes doing this workout and their body moves super fluid, to people that have never felt athletic in their life. They feel like they have no coordination. They learn it just like that individual. It might take a little longer, but we get that whole body working, the whole kinetic chain working, when they end up throwing that left hook and that right hook. And so that's something from our coaches, what we focus on is, education can be motivation, right? I'm going to motivate you, but at the same time, I'm giving you cues to actually get better. And so it's, we talk about, it's leaving breadcrumbs. Just follow me. Every day you're going to get a little nugget of information. And the next day you're going to get a little nugget of information. And then weeks later, months later, you go, geez, this person looks like they could be a fighter, just because they followed the cues and they kind of learn it over time.
Very cool. Yeah, for years I used target mitts with many of my clients, and honestly, I'm about the size of your wife. And most of my clients, yeah, they're 6 feet behemoths, men and women, and they loved pounding on the little muscular hobbit, right, with the target mitt. And I tell you, my shoulders took so much pounding, the impact, the repetitive striking back and forth, that I wish I had a Focusmaster in the studio, because that would have just saved me a whole bunch of pain and anguish on my own physical form. But I loved what the outcome was, and they actually loved it. Like that is the one thing they continually asked for when they came in. They didn't care about lifting so much or doing this or that. It was like, oh yeah, when can we get the target mitts out? So you bring up two things that kind of came to my mind. You spoke about COVID, and then early on in the episode, you're talking about the fight within. So let's combine those right now. You being an entrepreneur, COVID shuts down your operations for the most part, or greatly restricts them about a year ago. And so what was that fight within you that kept you going? What was, can you put your finger on, like, when you were in the throes of COVID, which we still are, by the way, but when it was really, the curtain was coming down on us and we had to make some decisions, where was that fight within you?
Well, it was, as an entrepreneur, you're constantly looking for solutions, and you're constantly dealing with problems, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what's the best outcome? How can I turn this into a positive situation? And I can't say for many businesses, COVID's been, positive, right? For the most part, it's been devastating. And, I use the analogy. It's like you were playing a board game and you had everything set up, and then somebody just came over and just shuffled it all up. And you're trying to put the pieces back together, and the board might have changed, right? Your business that you had before in the model may not work, whether because we don't know the length of time we're going to be restricted for whatever reason, right? There's so many different obstacles. So we've kind of, you're evolving on the fly. Thankfully, we have a phenomenal team at Focusmaster. We have great coaches and managers, and we have a great community. We had a super supportive community that, didn't want to see us fail either, and that was super appreciative. Thankfully, we were actually 2019 was great. We continued. It's like we finally hit, concerning the studio, we were like really hitting our stride. We were hitting our stride for our members. We were hitting our stride with our coaches, and things were going really good. Downside is that, we ran into COVID and completely changed everything. But the good side is that we had those things in place, and we had that community that was established. So it's really just, business is a game, right? It's a game, and you have to just continue to evolve and try to find the mini wins. And, ultimately it definitely like slowed down the end vision a little bit, because you had to think so day to day and week to week. And, you created a million plans and executed one of them, because every week new information was coming out, so you're also paying attention to the industry to see what was going on. But there's something that, again, the underdog mentality has always resonated with me, right? For whatever reason, you play your sport with a chip on your shoulder. In business, you're doing the same thing, right? There's going to be struggles. There's going to be mountains you got to climb, and so kind of embrace that, right? And again, go back, fight for it. If you want it that bad, it's not for everybody, but you got to buckle down. This is the game, and let's try to look for the win.
So with every dark cloud, there is, if we look at it the right way, a silver lining, right? For me, with the COVID, yeah, there's a whole bunch of things that could have come out. Knowing that no longer does my studio have a 5 mile radius where most of my clients come in, it's going to be now online. So wherever English is spoken for the most part, although we have a trainer that's fluent in Spanish, so wherever English and Spanish are spoken, now that's our territory. So that was a silver lining. And also, decades of radio broadcasting that I've done in the past have turned this podcast into something in the last year. But I'm curious about your silver linings. What did you find that you weren't looking for during this last year through this whole process? What were the gems that you started to pick out of the pile of crap that was thrown down on us?
Well, there's a lot of things we could probably talk all day about it, but I think having such a great team in place of our instructors and coaches, and we really focus on developing the best coaches, the most motivating, connecting. The experience is key. That we transitioned to online, of course, right? Everybody did, and that they quickly transitioned to be able to be in front of camera, very good, having the same energy, the same enthusiasm. I thought that was a silver lining, right? And as entrepreneurs, we're trying to push our staff to get the maximum out of them, but to help them grow and continue to evolve. I mean, there's plenty of people that have been a part of Focusmaster that I think we've really helped their own skills, and as they move on, they use those skills. So thankfully, our team has been phenomenal in being able to transition in that and go virtual, right? So now we're doing daily lives as well. The other thing was, the silver lining is that we sell the commercial gym, right? So we sell packages of Focus Masters who want to run boxing and programming that we can help them with. And then we sell to the home user, and then we have our studio. So the home user was something that we hadn't been focusing on that much, right? Because the gym model was focusing, and then our studio was taking up a lot of time. But that's where we originated, was that home market. And this was the opportunity for us to say, all right, we've been thinking about launching an online program. Let's launch the online program. Let's create programming. And we started selling our Focus Masters to our members. So our members who couldn't come in can now get a Focus Master in the home and do the exact same workout that we were doing from the same coaches that they were familiar with, that they liked and enjoyed. And so again, on that microcosm here locally, that's how we could do that. And we kind of offered that to our members. We got financing now for our equipment. So in theory, a member, could pay the same or less of what they were paying when they were an actually member of the studio to have the equipment at home, and then also get the online platform. And so the silver lining is the opportunity of the home. That's one of the large ones, because we also do sell our equipment. So it's spreading our culture across this, this huge market of worldwide, and, obviously domestic first, but, Peloton and the Echelon and the iFit, all these, it accelerated what I think was going to happen anyway, where more people are working out from home because technology's there. And then, we've seen it happen with boxing and kickboxing, that's been validated at home. So we think there's tremendous opportunity for us, because we're so passionate in this boxing, fitness, kickboxing space, that with this unique piece of equipment, that the home market is a very big opportunity. And we wouldn't be able to service that without what we've been able to do here in this studio with the staff that we have.
I'm curious. I spoke to distributors, manufacturers of exercise equipment in the last year, and what they struggled the most with was filling their keeping their inventory. Actually fulfilling the orders that were coming in, because, well, transporting things from foreign countries where they were being manufactured and getting in. Did you run into the same thing? I mean, I can only imagine how many orders started rolling in as soon as people couldn't go to their gyms anymore.
We definitely saw an uptick in the home market for sure. Our commercial slowed down because all the gyms were in survival mode, right? So it kind of bounced off a little bit. Um, I wish we were in a slightly better scenario going into it. I'm sure everybody wishes
Sure.
that, right? But this is, I think as we're moving towards a normalcy, right, of getting back, I think there's been certain consumer behaviors that are going to be forever changed a little bit. Individuals that worked out 4 or 5 days a week at a studio, now they might work out 3 days in the studio and 2 days at home. So I think there's still a lot of opportunity. And again, thankfully, we can, and like you're doing, right, and many gym owners are doing, they're getting into the homes, through their own, whether it be Uscreen or Facebook Live, all these different methods. We just have a little bit of an edge that this is a unique tool as well that goes along with it, right? So it's not that it's just a program of body weight exercises that we could all do, or strength exercises that we could all do. It's using this piece of equipment and feeling like you're in the studio. So I think we're all optimistic on the potential that we have in front of us when it comes to the whole market.
Very cool. Now you mentioned Jeet Kune Do, which, correct me if I'm wrong, that was Bruce Lee's version of Kung Fu, right?
Yep, that was Bruce Lee who came up with Jeet Kune Do. So my two partners, they got into Jeet Kune Do back in the '90s, and that was kind of what started this whole Focus Master situation.
Do you have other ideas moving into the future as it relates to Kung Fu or other martial arts, other products aside from the Focus Master? I mean, there's usually, for years, M&Ms ruled. They were awesome. And then somebody came up with the idea of putting a peanut inside, right?
Yeah,
Or then changing the color. And it's like, we went
yeah,
years and years and didn't even think of that. Do you have anything like
yeah.
that coming out? Like, oh, we're just going to change the color of the pads, or we're going to put something else going in there?
Well, I think, we're a creative group, and we're always thinking, we're always, spitballing ideas, and there's been a natural evolution, no doubt. I mean, again, taking it from this martial arts, piece of equipment, and then just being fitness. And we're using targets like coil spring arms, which, a lot of people doing Wing Chun would use, we're using for hooks and uppercuts. They were never used like that before. And now this is a unique, cool tool. So, we've naturally evolved in a lot of different methods of how we can use our equipment, for different populations. And we do, still sell the martial arts. I think more of what it would be almost is like a technology element, adding technology. We've been talking with different companies of how we're adding technology into our piece of equipment. But the sky's the limit. I mean, we're always playing around, and that's what's great about our studio is it's this testing hub. It has so many benefits for the community and for our staff, but it's where we prototype everything, right? We put it through its paces, we play around, we see how people react, and we test. And that's one of the fun things about being an entrepreneur is you get to test, and you have control over the destiny of the business and how you want to shape it moving forward.
All right, so I'm going to plant a seed right now. Do with
Yeah,
it what you will. But one time somebody bumped into somebody with chocolate and they had a jar of peanut butter. And the next thing you know, we've got Reese's cups all over the place.
yeah,
Over my shoulder right here is an Indian club. And the Indian clubs are fantastic movements I've been training with for 10 to 15 years now. And I'm just thinking, man, if you had yourself a lathe, you could start manufacturing a whole bunch of Indian clubs, which are kind of hard to find. And then you could start hitting those target pads with the clubs themselves. Now you get two things going together. I'm just
yeah.
saying.
No, listen, I love it. Now we've sold to the military, right? Different branches of the military and law enforcement departments, and that they train with our equipment very differently than other people do, and that's the uniqueness. It's been a blessing and a curse, right? That we have so many different markets that we service. That somebody doing defensive tactics, right, are going to use it very different than somebody in our studio following our programming. So they could hit things with a baton. There's different style trainings that they could do. Kali sticks, right, or another. The
Right.
Filipino martial arts. You could be using as hitting the pads. So it's tough to be something for everyone, but we do a pretty good job of it with the equipment.
It sounds like you do.
Yeah,
It
but
sounds
I
like
like
you
that
do a great
idea.
job. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you still, I can tell you got the fight inside you, and you're going strong with this. Kyle,
Yeah.
this has been great. I can't believe an hour has kind of flown by here, but this is the opportunity at the end of the show just to, we'll lay down all your contact information in the description below, but for the listening audience, they want to find out more about Focusmaster, or for that matter, we didn't even talk about Tap Out Fitness, which you're a part of too.
Yeah.
Just give us a whole kind of a whole smattering of how we can get more information.
All right. Yeah. So you could go to focusmasterfitness.com. That's our website. You could go to shopfocusmaster.com. You could take a look at our equipment. You know, we have online programming. If you're interested in boxing, kickboxing workouts for home, you know, we look back and go 50% of the gym population that were members of big box gym, or, you know, boutique kickboxing, CKO, I love kickboxing, UFC, title boxing, they're all displaced and they're looking for solutions at home. And I think what we provide at Focusmaster is something even better than what you probably had in your own boutique there, and would love for you to check it out. And you can do a bunch of free workouts. We have a platform called Workouts by Kyle, and it's where we house hundreds of videos of both our in-studio workouts and then dedicated pre-recorded workouts that people would check out and really kind of experience Focusmaster and be part of the Focusmaster family and fight for it right along with us.
Man, that sounds great. Well, this has been a really nice conversation. I've had a fun time talking about it, and it definitely inspires me to pull out those target mitts and hand them over to one of my trainers so I can beat them up a little bit
That's
and
right.
kind of just, turn the tables a little bit there. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, this has been great. I really appreciate your time.
Likewise, I thank you so much, Rocky. Appreciate it.
That's it for another episode of the RockFit Files. I want to thank you for listening, and also thank Kyle Coletti for coming on and being my guest. If you want a copy of The Successful Body, make sure you follow me on Instagram, Rocky_Snyder, and each week I'll pick a name out and you could be the lucky winner. Or just go to your major bookseller. I guess you could do it that way too. So until the next episode, have yourself a happy and healthy week. We'll see you then.